a live video. I don't post a lot of live videos, but when I do, I like to recap a lot of stuff, what's going on. But today's subject with my live, and if you haven't liked or subscribed, please do, and hit that thumbs up. Much appreciated. Be very kind of you. If not, and you're visiting, please enjoy the conversation and checking out my videos of all the videos I've done over my channel over the 5 years of droning. So check it out. Today's subject I am touching on basin is knowing your drone equipment. Okay, knowing your drone equipment with everything, if that is FPV, if that is aerial photography, which is cinematic drones, because you got two different breeds of drones, FPV and aerial shots. They're two different weighing in the basket, guys, because they're way different with the drones. One's goggles, one's looking at a screen, iPad, phone, etc. Whatever you're using with your DJI drones, or if you're using a Skydio drone or whatever, but mainly a lot of people are using DJI drones because they're 70% worldwide, right? So, but get in touch base, knowing your drone, okay? Knowing the equipment, knowing the settings, knowing the capabilities of every drone, because every drone's different. Depends on the value of it, the money you spend, the specs it can do. A lot of these drones can do a lot, even if you're starting over $1,000 or starting $1,000. However you're going to start, but it's basically knowing what you can do and what it's not capable to do. So to set an example, I've done a lot of forest flying, big time, flying over forest. So a good example is, you're flying over forest, but you want to do, here's a good example, FPVing, and you're going far. So basically, it's a little risky when you go a little further when you're doing stuff like that, because going FPVing and going a couple 100 feet away, it's okay, but when you're really getting a little bit further with your FPVing, so if you're very low and there's brushes, there's trees, there's cattails, whatever the situation, or over swamp water or anything like that, sometimes these transmissions cut out. So when they're cutting out and you're losing your reception, you're basically, it will black out, and then you don't know what's going on, and you could be accidentally drop down on the joystick and hit one of those cattails and crash, or hit with a tree. It can happen, guys. And I think a lot of crashes happen with these ways. So know your limitation with how far it can really go and what you can push with your equipment, okay? Good morning and good evening in Hong Kong. Hello, 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 hello. Thank you. Everybody, 7 chat, everybody, please give me the thumbs up. And please subscribe if you haven't, okay? Lots of thumbs, lots of hearts. Always appreciate it all the time, guys. So it's basically, that is the situation with that, okay? So thank you for the 1 like. Thank you. Lots of love. We need some more, guys. 2 likes. Very good. 2 likes. Let's go for 3. Let's go for 3 thumbs up, guys. Let's keep going up with the thumbs up. Love and support here in Canada, Ontario. Droning with Jamie. And thank you for the first like, Red's Room. You are awesome. And everybody else is awesome. Just not one, okay? Um, so that basically to touch on the basis, let's FPV, what we were talking about. So aerial photography, air versus FPV. So everybody asks us, okay, what does FPV stand for? FPV stands for first person view. Goggles, person view, you are inside the drone, right? So you're inside the drone with the goggles on, okay, guys? You are inside the drone, so if you're going left, you're going right, you're going down, you're going in a gully, whatever, you're seeing what the drone sees, okay? And that is so cool compared to a normal drone where it just sits in the air. I mean, not sits, but floats, hovers, however you want to say it. You're taking photos. It's not saying it's boring, but there's a huge difference with FPV and drones, aerial drones. Okay, so this is the difference between those two, and this is why I like flying and spicing up my channel. Okay, I don't want to just stay with one drone. I want to fly other drones. Other drones do other different purpose, right? So um so knowing your equipment, so always as you take off, wait for your SATI lights. Big time, guys. Wait for your SATI. Some people just get pushed and they just want to get up and go and forget about having the satellite set with the home point. Now the DJI Air 3S, so that is a big thing. They have advanced RTK, so they will actually, the newer drones the way they are now, they'll automatically update the home point even if you forgot to set it, because the drones are getting more advanced, right? Drones are getting more advanced, so they'll automatically update the home point with the Air 3S, especially the DJI, and you don't have to worry about setting the home point. And more the technology now with the advanced RTKs versus the one I own right now with my Mavic 3 DJI, it don't have it. It has advanced return to home, but it doesn't have the RTK special advance that it will actually, you can take it off from apartment building, off a balcony into your living room, and it will actually go back exactly where you took off. It's pretty gnarly how the technology is, guys. Like, come on. Like, how DJI is improving every time with their drones and every time with their equipment is just unreal. It's so cool how they go. So, also too, you always want to check your batteries too, knowing your drone. Especially in wintertime. When you get the cold winter times, guys, and you're flying minus 20, okay? We get some cold weathers in Canada and Ontario. Out west gets even colder. Saskatchewan, Manitoba, out towards Alberta, they get the cold snaps, like really cold weather. They don't get the damp cold like we do in Ontario. And you know what? The Mavic 3 with these more expensive drones, it could take a lot of cold weather as you're sitting in your comfort vehicle, not freezing your fingers off to do this special shot, what you're doing, or photos or videos, whatever you're doing, okay? My opinion, and I say it a lot of other people, and take it or leave it, my general thumb is been flying, I always like to see the temperature of those batteries no lower than 20 degrees, because 20 degrees with the drone and it starts dropping, I don't like that. When it starts doing that, especially with the Mavic 3, and it gets under that, that's cold, guys. And these more advanced drones could take a lot, especially mine in minus 20. And when it gets colder with the wind, you know, you always got a key factor with the wind, knowing your drone, okay, it's minus 20, but the wind chill's minus 25. You really don't want to travel too far away from your home point or your takeoff where you are with your drone. So very got to be careful with it, because especially if it really decides to force land and on the ice, and you're wandering over the ice and doing a awesome video shot, getting ice shocks, like especially with me here in Canada, that I did some videos in that last winter. And do I push my luck going too far? No, I really don't, because that force lands and it's there, you're not gonna get it back, especially when there's thin ice and that. It's just not it's not worth your life, right? And you got to think of stuff like that, knowing your drone, especially in cold weather. Knowing your drone, if it has obstacle avoidance around the whole entire drone, especially if you're flying over forests, you're getting a cinematic shot of all the trees. You're going by acres of forest to get all this beautiful shot. Well, you better have a drone that's very well equipped of obstacle avoidance through the whole entire drone. Up, down, forward, left, right, like everything. So with these more advanced with drones that I own versus certain other drones, some drones don't have that feature with it. So it's a lot of basically, I would say, a lot of thinking outside the box before you actually want to do whatever situation you're doing with your drones, right? Forest, water, over lakes, all this kind of stuff, right? Transmission, big time. Battery, big time. Your flight time, big time. You're into FPVing, and you're getting a nice, awesome shot. So you're getting a shot, basically. You want to get a water skier, or you're getting doing a film for somebody, water tubing, right? Chasing boats, or getting a boat scene, stuff like that. Are you going to set your home point to where you take off? No, you're not. So knowing your drone, you got to think basically outside the box and think here, okay, if I'm doing this special scene, or I'm doing this situation is different, these drones basically have different options. One, they have return to home. Two, they got hover. So if it lost connections, it's going to hover. And land. So you can not program, I should say, I correct myself. You can select under the settings on your DJI drones or FPV, either or, they're all the same. And you want to change your home setting, because if you're on a boat, right, and you want to set it back to come to you, or you lose connections, you really want to change what you have your regular settings. Okay, I've been on land, I've been filming, I've been setting my home point to this location where I take off and it's land. Well, you're on water, so you might have think through this situation where you're going to be taking the video scene or the photo, and change your settings to return to home or follow the controller. There's another way you can think of knowing what your drone. So you can have it sit and hover if you lose your location. Basically, it lost connections, is just going to sit there and hover. So if you're 200 feet or you're 120 feet, it loses connections, and it's just going to hover. It's not going to land, because you don't want to return to home. Because if you were on the boat and you return to home where you were at that location, well, you're just 10 kilometers down the water, but your drone's going to go way back where you first took off. And this is losing your drone completely, because you're not going to have enough battery to get it back. Okay, so knowing your drone equipment is knowing your settings of where you take off, guys. So this is a big key that I've learned over the 5 years, is depends what your situation, boats, uh, chasing snowmobilers, because you're on another snowmobiler and you're FPVing, or you're on a boat, you're FPVing, the client's water skiing. So you're not going to set to return to home on where you first take off your location. So keys, big little factor of knowing your equipment, right? So little things like that you got to take in consider, right? Just little things like that. Knowing your battery, your voltage, knowing your battery of the temperature, knowing your battery how warm in summertime, especially summertime too. It's 30 degrees, it's 38 with the humidity. Is it warmer as higher you go up with altitude? Of course it is. Yes, it is. Higher you go, more dense the air, more work it's going to be with the battery, because there's not as the air is thinning out as higher you go, right? So basically higher you go, more less air. So consider that. Take that in thought, knowing your drone. How warm it can get, right? Especially the temperature. These batteries can get really warm, and they can overheat, FPV especially. So got to think of that too with the wintertime, right? Then think about your home point, what situation you're doing, and I explained that. Same thing. You get that down pack, you're good. Um, Also knowing your equipment, if back to aerial photography, I should say, not FPVN. So if you're an aerial photographer and you want to get it off auto exposure and get um, a perfect sunset picture, you could basically manually put your camera with the iOS and dial it down more because the sun's really bright. So you want to get a really crisp um, shot of it and a very good clear picture, because sometimes auto doesn't really do justice of certain situation. So that's another way you can look into as you're taking photos with that. Knowing capable of your equipment too. So knowing with the wind, really windy days, you got to think about with your drone, especially if you go out traveling over lakes. I've noticed over the 5 years flying, especially going over Lake Ontario, huge big lakes. Like I've been over Lake Ontario, big lakes, and it could not be windy, right? Over where you first take off over land, but a couple 100 feet going out, it gets windy all of a sudden. You better have a drone that's a little bit heavier than have a light drone, because you're going to have a hard time bringing that drone down. So I always tell people with advice with this, if you have windy situations and you come into a pinch of getting back, I think the best key factor, if worse comes to worse and you can't get back, find land where you can land. If you can't judge of coming back where you were and you can't make it, land it somewhere else and then retrieve it, right? So situations like that, knowing your drone. But when you get into these heavier drones, that I would say, these drones can take a lot more wind compared to the lighter drones, the mini drones, and they come benefit for these situations that they can take a lot of wind. And the Mavic 3 and the Air 3S, they can take a lot of good wind. Okay. And this is the thing with the drones, with knowing your equipment, is you better know when you're into wind situations and flying. I enjoy flying in the wind because when you do, which I have on my YouTube channel, basically having wind and having waves, this is creating waves, right? So doing a slow motion on your videos just gives it something more spice up to your channel. And I've noticed a lot of people like that when I've done that with my channel. So I would go basically find and win where other pilots with smaller drones avoid that situation. So depends on your equipment. It depends what you fly. And my subject, like I say, with my live video is knowing your drone equipment, knowing your FPV, knowing your drone, knowing the capability, knowing the transmission, knowing what it can capable to do with these drones. Okay. And FPVing, I would highly, if you would go buy a DJI drone, and you purchase FPV, the Avata 2 and the DJI FPV, love both of them and highly recommend both of these drones because the DJI Avata 2, knowing that equipment, is really good doing indoor videos, doing indoor flights. Compared to the original DJI FPV, so everybody would call it the potato, it's good for outdoors, okay? Not indoors compared to the Avata. And this is why I like having these two drones, because they have two different situations and they have two different ways how they fly, right? It's the way I look at it. So knowing your equipment is a big key factor of the drone industry and what to pick, what situation you're doing, what job are you doing, and what are you going to fly and use for a video, real estate, your YouTube channel, or you're starting a YouTube channel and you want to start doing really low epic shots with FPVing, then homemade quads and the Avata 2 all the way, because you can get into these small spots where bigger drones can't. So knowing your equipment, right, is basically, in my advice, I've learned over buying expensive drones, and I've had, knowing what, with my equipment, I have damaged my equipment. I have spent costly repairs of my mistake, and it came out of my own wallet and my own money of my mistakes, and they were very costly. So what I've learned, what would avoid for other people that getting into the drone world and to save them money, what I've learned that I could pass on advice with other people so they don't endure of having heavily basically expense of repairs, So these drones are not cheap. Um, I like to always give advice what I've learned over the 5 years of flying aerial drones and FPVing, right? And what I've learned. So it's basically knowing that kind of stuff, guys. Okay? So your battery, as I would say, your home point, knowing your drone, your manually exposure of adjusting for your photograph when you're taking photos of the situation. And also, that I did not know with touching bases, these drones also have emergency settings, what you want if something happens to a situation of a plane coming near your area, to disable your drone, different emergency stuff. The settings in there for what you want to set it as. So these DJI drones are very well equipped, and I'm always going to fly DJI, and I feel more safe flying these drones. And when it comes to FPVing, I feel more secure with DJI FPV because they return to home. Analogs and regular FPVs, they don't do that. But they bring more to the table compared to the DJI FPVs or any DJI FPV drone like the Avata 2, or Flip, whatever, that the regular the regular FPV drones, as I would say, they don't have that equipment stuff. So, like I say again, knowing your equipment, so knowing your regular homemade FPV quads, they're up maybe top 5 minutes, not even 8 minutes if you're lucky. So you got to know to bring those drones back when you're flying analog, or digital with your homemade 7-inch quads, 6-inch quads. So you better know you're judging distance. Okay, low voltage, bar come back. You know when to push it, when to not. Same as huge idol that I love for FPVing is Mr. Steele, Davey Steele's from Florida, Atlanta, Georgia, and very experienced pilot. And same with him, like he knows his equipment, he knows when to push, when to bring these drones back. So same thing when he went to Bur Al down in Turkey when he did the flying with the FPV, which I really enjoyed that video, and that was awesome. When he paid $1,000 an hour to fly, but him with the wintertime is Mr. Steele. He knows basically how far he can fly these quads and bring them back when they start going low on voltage because he knows his equipment. So it's just a thing that you get used to knowing your equipment. Same thing when you drive your car. Same thing when your computer and everything. When you get to know your basic outcome of what you own and what you do, you get familiar. It's just a natural thing that everybody gets adjusted to, right? Same as drones, everything, right? So, but it's pretty cool with the drones now these days and how they're equipped and how they can what they can do and what they bring to the table. And the Mavic 3, how far they could, you know, fly, reach, everything, and what they bring to the table too when they come back and return to home. I've had batteries come back at 18, 16%. I've had them come back in 20%. It depends wind situation, the distance where you are, what you're doing with your situation when it comes back, right? So those are the key factors. Always have a full charge battery, as I say to everybody, knowing your equipment. Have your batteries always charged before you go. Have your iPad, which I use 100% all the time for flying all my equipment. I like the bigger screen. I don't like using phones. I don't want to get disturbed calling when I'm doing flights and getting bugged. It's just doesn't make sense to have a phone connected to a drone and getting a phone call after phone call because I'm not here to go out and get a phone call, or I'm doing the middle of a shoot and get a phone call. I just don't believe having phones connected to drones. Uh, it's just a huge no-no in my opinion, because nobody wants to get bugged when you're flying or you're in the middle of doing something. No. So iPads all the way, and something different than having a phone, because I'm not a phone person. Flying drones is just not something that I eliminate, and I just like having. I'd rather have a big screen, see what I'm doing, get getting the shot or the video or a photo, right? I'd rather use something like that than use a phone and get bugged and have a phone call. No, not my cup of tea. I don't want any of that crap. So yeah, forget about it. Um so yeah. So if you know your equipment, you know your battery, you know what you can do, you know what the distance, you know the reception, you know if it's OcuSync 3 or an OcuSync 4, whatever the transmission is. Get familiar with your drone. Get familiar where where you fly. Get familiar with everything with your drone. Because in the end, you want to trust your drone, right? In the end, you want to trust your drone. In the end, you want to get to know your drone when you're doing, not saying risky situations, but getting a shot that you're going to hover down between the trees to get a nice video of a bear, wildlife, anything. So you better know your drone before you do outside the box to making videos, as I would say with everything, right? So, but anyways, I'm very appreciate that everybody joined my live and checked me out. And later on, it's going to be uploaded, so check the video out. And I appreciate everybody always with the love and support from Ontario, Canada, droning with Jamie. And I will see you guys in the next video.